Many of us love to play live games, but the problem is you think you played the game of your life, 25 moves, you outsmarted your opponent, totally destroyed him in the game, but then you click on game review on chess.com and you find 7 mistakes, 2 blunders, 17 inaccuracies, and you don't understand the moves. Why is this a blunder? Why is this an inaccuracy? I'm gonna show you today when you should follow the engine and when you shouldn't really listen to a 3000 cyborg trying to tell you that this is a bad move or an inaccuracy. And for this, I feature 3 games. I ask people on the Chesscape Discord server to send me their games. So I'm gonna review today and explain exactly what went wrong. So let's go to game number 1. It went e4, so this is an 865 versus a 920. Now the French defense, and now instead of actually taking the center like this, which is the main move that is played, player with white decided to play knight f3, and as you can see, this little icon means that it's a book move, means it has been played many times. A lot of people basically played this, grandmasters, top players, and everything is well known. Again, a book move, and now bishop d3. And you see, the engine doesn't put a book move, but instead they put good move. So how is this a good move? Of course, it's not losing material. You're not losing on the spot with white, but this is a strategic mistake. And that's the reason why. I mean, first of all, let me explain why it's a strategic mistake. When you put a bishop here, you're blocking this pawn, which means you're blocking this bishop. So you're kind of hindering your development with white. And this one, you're going to have to push him again, and then to be able to take the center with your pawns. So this is a waste of a tempo. The problem is the engine in the opening doesn't have a sort of database included, integrated, that says, okay, bishop d3 is going to lose in 25 moves. Not really. So the strategic mistakes in the opening, and that's the reason why you shouldn't really follow the engines in the opening, the strategic mistakes, the engine is not really going to pick up on them. Not really. So this for me is actually not a blunder, clearly an inaccuracy or a bad move. I would actually put it as a bad move, but then okay, it's 865 player, so I'm just going to say it's an inaccuracy actually here. So now taking in the center is great, and now knight c6 that was played. And you see with the green arrow, it says, it shows you the move that should have been played, which is developing the other knight. Usually what you want to do, you want to develop the pieces that are on the king side so you can castle. And here, the other problem of actually putting the knight here is that he can take. And you take, and now you have an isolated pawn and doubled pawns. You have a horrible pawn structure basically on the queen side. But the engine is saying that knight c6 is a good move because what he has is that it's not a losing move. You're not going to actually lose the game because of this. I mean, some of us will, because you know what? We don't know how to play against this structure, this pawn structure. And we're going to end up having a lot of weaknesses because of these 3 pawns that are a disaster. But for the engine, he's going to see other things. The rook is now open. I'm going to put pressure. This column is actually open. I'm controlling amazing squares. And he has all the tactic. He's a 3000 cyborg that is playing. So obviously, he's going to find resources. But we won't. So this move for me is an inaccuracy. But everything that is like some sort of strategic mistake in the opening, I have the feeling that Stockfish is saying good. Instead of saying great move, best move, is saying good move. So they took, and now knight e5. So you see what is happening. The knight is moving twice, which is not the best. But to be honest, this move wasn't such a big deal because yes, he had a clear target, attacking the pawn that is weak on c6. And this is an 800 player. He can't find like queen d5, double attack on the knight, and the pawn on g2, and that's the reason why you're forced to actually go back with the knight here. So that's the reason why actually knight on e5 actually was a bad move. But the engine doesn't factor the fact that this is an 800 player that is playing this game, so he's thinking, yeah, inaccuracy straight away. So queen d5, come back, and knight f6, for some reason he's saying is not the best move. As you can see here, he's saying knight f6 is good, but the best move instead of this was to actually give a check here. Because, well, apparently here you have queen takes c2. Makes sense. It does make sense. And if you move the king, then you lost actually the right to castle. So yes, we agree. So when I look at this move, for me, pretty easy move to find. I mean, this is a check. So at any level, checks are not really missed because beginners love to actually find checks and play. And they overrate actually checks when there is nothing to follow, like a strong attack and stuff. I will show you in game number 2, this is what happens. So here, actually, you know, winning this, and let's say knight c3, yeah, black has a great position here. And you go knight f6, the bishop is going to come out, and you're going to castle. But instead, what was played in the game was knight f6, and now bishop d6. And you see what's happening. Putting the bishop here is excellent, and I agree. It's amazing because you're targeting actually this diagonal is great, but the engine understands that basically what the engine is saying is, man, you have 2 double pawns that are weak, so you have to get rid of them. So for this, you had to play a move like this, because if he pushes on d4, you got rid of one of the double pawns. You have 2 isolated pawns, but at least you don't have the double pawns. Yeah, that's fine, but we're not grandmasters, so yeah, okay. And also, this move after bishop d6, if you play d4, I can still play this, I guess, right? I don't see any problem playing this. If you attack my queen, I just go here, and I'm still gonna get rid of actually the double pawn. So, here he went bishop d6, now he attacks the queen, and the queen went there, on the other side. Usually, and you see the green arrow is showing you that the best square for the queen was h5. Because usually what you want to do, obviously, the queen is very powerful when there is attacking chances, right? The queen is powerful because she can deliver a checkmate and stuff. So you actually want to put the queen where the king is, on the other side. And also there would be a pin that you can use to your advantage. If you have, for instance, here, instead of this, if you put the queen here, then later on you can have this, the bishop is going to come here, you push, and you have some attack on the king side that is actually pretty powerful, this one. But instead, here, he went here, because the queen here doesn't have any target. You have to think in terms of targets. What are the targets that you have when you put the queen here? Rook e1, great move, great move. And now great move. So you see, it looks like, because everybody would have pushed actually the pawn twice, maybe. And we're thinking, okay, why is this move a great move? It looks like the engine likes to control these 2 squares instead. Maybe the reason is that if you push it here, then I can get rid of my doubled pawns by pushing and then exchanging against this pawn, which is not the case here. So he pushed, and now white decided to get rid of black's weakness by playing this. And now he's doing the opposite, the engine. I mean, this cyborg. He's basically saying pushing once, twice, and then getting rid of the weakness of black is actually just an inaccuracy. It's not the case. This one I think should have been a bad move because obviously I can get rid of my weakness and you lost the tempo, right? So, d4, bishop b7, knight h4. So, he said it's a bad move this time. Is there a clear attack, like winning material, for instance, here that makes this move bad, especially at 800 level? At your level, I'm not sure that this move can be used straight away against you. Obviously, it's a bad move. The knight doesn't have any square he can go to here. And also, you can see that the move that should have been played is this. But also, maybe the point of this move, I'm thinking, is to open the diagonal for the queen. But all these squares are taken. They're controlled by pieces here, which means the queen can never go to these squares. So why moving the knight? I don't know. Maybe to push like this. But you don't want to be pushing the pawns that are in front of your king, especially when you have 2 bishops like this in open positions. It's very weakening. So took in the center, that's good. And now the blunder came. I mean, that's not even a blunder. So this one, actually, I find that Stockfish, the engine was pretty nice, actually, with this one. Because it's clearly losing a piece on the spot. There is 2 attackers, right? On this square, and only 1 defender. So the piece is gone, right? You can just take it. But he's saying that it's just a bad move. It's like the engine suddenly is using AI or something and telling us, okay, you're 865 and this kind of mistakes happen. I find it sweet from this cyborg. Okay, so you take, and by the way that black played until now, I mean, playing at 920 is pretty impressive. Like, this game could be played by a grandmaster and I couldn't see like the difference. I mean, there is some inaccuracies and stuff. What is, by the way, the game review on this? 92.2. Okay. 0 inaccuracy, 0 mistake, 0 miss, 0 blunder. Hello? Kramnik? Yeah, I have someone for you. Yep, I found someone for you. I'm gonna send it. Yeah, you can play a match against him. I'm joking. So, bishop h6. And this is a mistake that I see at beginner's level, is that you overvalue checks. You think that giving a check on the king is kind of winning the game. It's not the case. Checkmating is winning the game. Giving a check when your opponent, after your check, has so many ways to actually defend his king, is just a check. It's nothing else. So here, you gave a piece. Really, you just gave up a piece in one move to open the king because there is a check. But okay, there is a check on the king. Yeah, that's fine. But first of all, if the king goes here, there is no problem. You don't have a dark squared bishop, which means you will not be able to attack the king on this diagonal. And you don't have enough pieces actually attacking the king. You see, this knight cannot do anything. The queen can come back at any time. This could have covered like this, or like it happened in the game, knight g5, which turns out that this is the best move. I wouldn't have played knight g5, thinking first of all what happens on this, because this is pinned. And on this, oh, the move is f5. Wow. And what if I keep the pin? How am I not going to lose actually this knight? King f7. Wow, oh yes! There is a pin now. I cannot take the knight. Haha. Wow. Okay. Yeah, king f7. Who finds this kind of moves? I mean, honestly, it's just ridiculous. And then you put the rook here and you attack like this. Wow. That's the reason why knight g5 is actually a great move. Wow. Sick. Absolutely sick. Okay, in the game, he brought the rooks in the center, which is a good move. g3, f5. Wow, the game that black played is absolutely impressive. f4. Check. King goes here. By the way, the only square. All the other squares were taken. Now, bishop a6. You see what's happening here? With the bishop, you're pinning the queen and the king, and you're gonna win heavy material. But the engine is saying, this is excellent, but queen c7 is best. This move. Not bishop a6. Queen c7 is best. Yeah. So the engine is telling you, you overvalue material, but when there is a mating pattern over even winning the queen, but I can checkmate faster, then the move that checkmates faster is the best. I get that. I mean, it makes sense. Because here, the thing is, you want to be playing this kind of move. Let's say the guy plays a3. Now you take. If he takes, you take. Now he's forced to do this. And look here. That's the funny part. We would play this without even thinking here. Right? We would be like, come on, give me this. The best move in this position is king f7. It's sick. Who plays again king f7? Because let's say the guy just plays moves. The point is to put the rook here and checkmate like this. So again, Something that we do in our games is that we take material when actually, you know what? If you're gonna win a queen or a rook, so, I mean, we all do this. We're winning in the game. We can win the queen or a rook, let's say. Why am I gonna think about checkmating? Because I'm still gonna checkmate later on. Because I just won the queen. I mean, I have such a decisive advantage. I'm still gonna win. But the engine is telling you, so careful. Here, when you look at this, bishop a6 is excellent, but queen c7 was better because there is a checkmate, incoming checkmate, and you checkmate faster. Now, the guy played this, and you know the French move? Boom. En passant. And the queen is still attacked. And when he covers, do you think he's saying to actually take the rook? We would take it on the spot. This is what happened in the game, by the way. And you see, bishop take d3, you're taking the rook, is good. But the best move here is to take a pawn. Because you have a triple fork here. I mean, it's not a fork, but you see what I mean. Like you have 3 pieces on the same diagonal. You're going to win the rook. The rook cannot go anywhere because the queen is behind it. So you have time to play this kind of moves. You're not forced to actually take. That's the reason why he's saying this is best. Yeah. So went rook d3, they exchanged, and bishop c7, even though here again, by the way, the best move was again to take the pawn, which is pretty crazy because if you take the bishop, now the queen takes the rook, sacrifice, the king takes, and then you can have a queen. Yep. Okay. But in the game, it went like this, bishop c7, took the pawn there. Great move again. I don't know how many great moves you got. And white cracked under pressure, but the position is super hard to play for white anymore. Anyway, so yeah, because there's a checkmate. And by the way, he's telling you this is a great move. Yes, of course, checkmate is a great move, but this is the move. I mean, you don't have any other way to end the game here. Game number 2. Let's see the review of this one. 90.4 versus 83.7. Okay. Wow. That's high. Caro-Kann defense. And now, instead of playing... The main move wasn't to put the knight here. The main move in this situation is to take the center with your pawns. Knight f3. Book move. Book move. Taking the center. And now e5. And e5 is saying is excellent, but then he's saying e take d5 is best. There is no such thing like in the opening, you can take, you can push, you can develop the knight on c3. These are pretty equal sort of solutions, especially between two 1400s. This doesn't decide the game. And even between two grandmasters. These are just different variations that you play in an opening that leads to different kind of positions. But for some reason, the engine prefers this in this spot. But it's hard to prove. Very hard to prove. Bishop g4 is great, pinning the knight. Now he's taking the center with d4, applying the principles. Now that the bishop is out, now you can push your pawn. Great move. And now h3. And he's saying that this is good, but instead, this move was best. To be honest, between two 1400s, playing this move is never going to be punished. It's not going to be punished at 2000, even at 2200. You can play this move, it's not going to be... You're not going to have any problem. You're not going to lose the game and you say afterwards, yeah, I played h3, I lost the tempo. First of all, it's kind of useful to actually play h3. I don't see any problem with this move. It's fine. And whenever your friend plays this, you just, yeah, you sustain actually the pawn structure like this in the center. So whenever he takes, you take back. So, bishop h5, and now bishop e2, c5, best moves. So far, attacking the base of the pawn chain, and you always have to defend with the pawn, otherwise you lose the center, and this is what's gonna happen here. Now there was a mistake by playing knight g5. The problem with this move, again, a little bit like the first game, really. between the 800, 900 players. And here we're at like 1450. Playing a move like this, committing to a move like this, just to exchange pieces is usually bad. Because this knight here doesn't have any prospects. There is no real attack actually on the king here. So this knight, at some point, you're just going to push, or you're going to put the bishop here, and it's going to be a waste of a tempo here. And you're going to have to go back. He took, and you have to factor in the fact that whenever the queen is taking, now this one is undefended. Boom, and he took. That's the reason why this move c3 had to be played. But what white had in mind, and this is what happens usually at kind of like this kind of levels, is that you overvalue the attacking chances that you have. And you think, let's go, knight c6. You see that black, by the way, took the center with c5, developing their pieces in the center of the board. And now white is trying to crush black. It's just trying to say, you know what, I'm going to mate you. But the problem is, doing this kind of moves doesn't achieve much. Of course, if your opponent plays this and you win like this, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's sick. But there is so many ways to defend against this attack. The queen here, and the best one, which is just taking. I'm attacking the queen that you just put there, which means you're going to lose a tempo, you have to move the queen again, and I'm defending the pawn on f7. This is the thing. This is not what was played in the game. It was queen c7, bishop f4, and now you see what happens when you don't put your pieces on great squares like this and you neglect development. What happens usually is that if strategically you make a mistake, you're going to have some tactical justification that comes in, like this move, h6. And you can look and try to find a square for the knight. The knight doesn't have any square to go to. This is taken. So you see, the knight is gone. Here, knight take f7, sacrificing at least and getting a pawn and weakening a bit the black's king, I get it. But also white could have played queen h5. Queen h5 is a good move here because you can't take, otherwise the rook is lost. Also, the knight is threatening this because there is a pin. And you cannot move the queen, otherwise there is this. So, yeah, it's not bad. But okay, there is g6 here. And you are still losing. You are still losing. But at least you play this. The queen moves. Now you have to move the queen, or you give a check, this, and you move the queen somewhere. And black would be totally winning, but yeah, you could play like this. Because knight take f7, queen takes, and now you have a problem with this. And you have also a pin on the queen, because you're a piece down. I mean, white is a piece down, so when you're a piece down, you try to keep all the pieces that are left. Don't exchange more when you're a piece down, right? When you're down in material. Which means when you're up material, you should be trying to exchange as many pieces and get to the end game with your piece up. Here they play normal moves. I mean, black is playing just crazy. And here there was this. And the reason, the way I explain actually this move, not seeing that after castling, that there is this piece that was attacked, is that usually in chess when we make a mistake, we usually blunder again after a few moves. Or, so, I mean, just the next move we tend to actually blunder, or just few moves after, just because we're kind of demotivated to play the game, because we think, okay, I'm not going to win this game anymore. Or we just, yeah, we're just, it's the nerves, right? It's how we manage our nerves. And we think, and sometimes there is self-destruction, which means we're like, yeah, take everything that I have. I'm sure you felt like this sometimes. When something is not feeling right, or, you know, you're just pissed off with the day, like someone pissed you off, you know, on the way to work. And you're like, yeah, okay, you want all my pieces, just take them all, you know? So there is this self-destruction. And here I would say just missing the fact that, you know, that this piece was attacked. Because it's true that something as well that we have, a third point, is that when we're not used to a pattern, like for instance here, usually on this square there is a pawn. It's very rare that actually the pawn in this kind of structure is not there. So it's easy for the brain to think, oh yeah, there is a pawn here, which means it's not attacked. So yeah, the game ended like this. They exchanged pieces. He came like this. Absolutely perfect game for black. Like, I don't have much to say apart from the move, you know, knight take e5, I would say, here. And when he played this to just take. Apart from this, there is absolutely no mistake. And I guess this is the reason why the game review is like 90.4. And then if I show you actually the, yeah. Why is it different from my screen? That's so strange. Oh, yeah. No, that's the thing. Yeah. And 0 blunder, 0 miss, 0 mistake, 3 inaccuracies. But you know, this is the inaccuracies that if Magnus was playing this game with black, he would get the same inaccuracies like you got from the engine. So it doesn't really matter. Now, third game. This is the accuracy, 95.1. And there is, it finishes in style, this one, with a brilliant move. There is in this game a brilliant move that I'm sure you saw already. Yeah? There is a blunder and there is a brilliant move. One great move as well. The game started like this, which is a sort of reti system. And this, playing with c5 against it, is called a Sicilian invitation to the reti. You know, like, no, it's called a Sicilian invitation variation against the reti. So, bishop b7, castle. Let me put the analysis back. Yeah. Now it says g6 is a book move. Now d3. He doesn't like d3 too much. Okay, instead of d3, apparently knight c3 was better, or d4. d4 challenging the center straight away. Yeah, makes more sense here. d3 is a little bit on the passive side. Bishop g7. Here again, knight d2. You could have played e4, taking the center, not helping him, you know, to play moves like this. Knight f6, a4, castle. This one, I want to see the end of it. Because, to be honest, the moves that were played, there is no massive mistake here. Knight h4. He's saying here, first of all, the position seems like totally equal. I mean, small plus for white. And he's saying the best move here was to play knight e3. I mean, why? Why and why? I guess at some point you will have to play knight h4 and play f4, f5. And maybe the knight is controlling this square. Also, the knight maybe stops this kind of thing because the knight here controls this square. So yes, but you can still play it after. Or maybe he wants that on knight h4, black plays d5, not even. So I don't know. For this one, I actually don't know why instead of playing this, you should be playing knight e3. Again, an engine mystery. And yes, and your opponent blunders. 1755. It happens quite often because the pawn is defended. We kind of discard the fact that it could be undefended if we play a move. We totally forget it. And when we play moves like this, we're like thinking in our mind, I don't know, it's like a pattern that happens. It happens. It's a blank moment, like it really happens. That we're like, the pawn, the way you see it on the board, is defending this pawn. So this pawn is actually not a worry of yours. You're not panicked, you know, about this pawn. You're like, you know what? This pawn is defending it. So you kind of like discard it. You get rid of it in your brain. You don't even think about it. You focus on what's next. How do I take an advantage? And you play this. And suddenly, blunder. And you see the engine is definitely putting a blunder when there is a loss in material. Because knight take d6, attacking the bishop. And now queen c7. Queen c7 is an inaccuracy because he says, yeah, you want to keep the bishop. The bishop was great. And you should have put the bishop on this diagonal maybe to push and stuff. Because after exchanging, there is this. Rook. And look, he's saying f5 is an inaccuracy. At 1700, the way that white played is absolutely sick. I mean, there is no mistake. You could be playing at 2500 here. Okay, you're going to say he's not going to make this kind of mistakes, but he's not going to give you the pawn on d6, for sure. But there is no real strategic issue. And especially with f5, like prove it. The only reason why he says that you shouldn't play this move is he doesn't like that you let your opponent push c4, and he wants you to contain the counterplay. Because if he pushes, then it means the knight will come here, the rook is open, and he's going to put pressure against this. So he wanted you to play a move like this. As simple as that. That you don't have to open the d file, you know? Because if he pushes, now you take with the b pawn. And playing this, I don't care. So strong as a structure. It doesn't really matter. You're not attacking anything. It would be totally different if here, on this, if your opponent played c4. If he played c4, that's a different story now. Because if you take, and let's say knight c5, now it's totally different. The column is open. It's still an advantage for white because of the material. But now at least black has some counterplay that you have to be careful. So the best move, instead of playing this, was to move on b3. Your opponent plays this because you see, your opponent didn't see that he didn't need the queen here to push on c4, because it's totally fine to actually give this pawn to activate the pieces of black. A sort of sacrifice, mini sacrifice. And now you're attacking on the king side. Like, you go for it. g5. Yeah, queen d6 is a big mistake. And for me, this move should have been a blunder, because letting pawns advance like this is a killer, like we will see. And you finished in style. This, the bishop goes back. And now there is a great move. There is actually a brilliant move. If you guys want to try and find it with white. There is a brilliant move here that you found in the game, Ufes. You found in the game, which is absolutely brilliant. Queen sacrifice. We don't think about this kind of moves usually. It's quite hard to find because it's just not a pattern that happens very often. But you see, if his opponent takes, now he has knight f5, the queen is attacked, and if the queen moves, this is checkmate. The fact that these pawns are here is totally suffocating the king. So I think he was played, yeah. So he's forced to actually give the queen back, but it means that white is just a piece up here. That was a great game. And here, black, yeah, resigned. Great game. So you see, you have to really take the annotations and the evaluations, especially in the opening, with a pinch of salt, you know, when it comes to this 3000 cyborg annoying machine. Doesn't really matter. Sometimes he tells you it's a blunder. I mean, the blunders are usually well respected, but when it comes to inaccuracy or or good move, especially in the opening, a good move in the opening could be a bad move, but he doesn't take into account the strategic and positional aspect of it. And then a blunder is usually, you could be taking a queen, but you missed a mate in 3. It's a blunder. That's how the classification is made with these engines. Okay? I hope you liked it, guys. Bye. See ya.